Hey, story lovers. Welcome to another story, and tell me at the end, do you think superstar Rea Rain brought her tragic end upon herself? So subscribe, sit back, and enjoy. The backstage hum of Lego's biggest arena was electric. Makeup artists adjusting highlights, hairstylists perfecting waves, stylists fussing over outfit details. The air was thick with the scent of perfume, hairspray, and anticipation. Rea Rain sat in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. Her caramel brown skin glowed under the lights, her long, wavy black hair cascading over her shoulders like silk. Her hazel eyes flickered with excitement, but deep in them was something else. Nerves. Relax, girl. You got this. Amara Okoro, her best friend, leaned against the makeup counter, flipping her long red hair over one shoulder. This is your moment. The whole world is watching. I know, Rea murmured, adjusting the gold choker around her neck. That's the part that scares me. A booming knock at the door interrupted them. Caleb Okafor, her agent, stepped in, his suit crisp, his expression unreadable. 10 minutes, you ready? Rea exhaled and nodded. Yeah. Caleb's gaze softened slightly. This is history, Rain. Sold out, millions watching. Just do what you do best. From the corner of the room, Chidi, her personal assistant, tapped furiously on her tablet. Your mic is good, the lights are set, and the opening visuals are on standby, she reported, barely glancing up. Chidi, you need to breathe, Rea said with a small laugh. Chidi did not laugh. I breathe when the show is over. Another knock. The door creaked open, and Miles Johnson, Rea's tech mogul boyfriend, stepped inside. Always dressed in sleek suits, his presence was controlled, smooth. His light brown eyes scanned her as he leaned in and kissed her cheek. You ready to own the world? He whispered. She swallowed, forcing confidence into her voice. Always. A voice from outside the dressing room called out, Rea Rain, 5 minutes. The room seemed to hold its breath. You got this, babe, Miles said, stepping back. You're born for this, Amara added. Rea rose to her feet, smoothing her deep gold bodysuit, the fabric catching the light like molten metal. She turned to the mirror one last time. Her reflection stared back, fierce, commanding, untouchable. The sound of the crowd filled the air, their cheers vibrating through the walls, sending a chill down her spine. She stepped out of the dressing room, her heels clicking against the floor, and into the glowing tunnel that led to the stage. Then, just as she reached the steps, darkness. The stage lights flickered and cut out. The monitors buzzed with static. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Then, just as suddenly, the lights flashed back on. Rea inhaled sharply, steadying herself. A glitch, just a glitch. She took the first step onto the stage, into the golden light. The crowd erupted. She smiled. The spotlight was hers. The bass dropped, and the entire arena trembled with the rhythm. The energy was electric, the crowd swaying, screaming, their hands in the air, worshiping the goddess on stage. Rea Rain moved like liquid gold under the blinding lights, her voice soaring through the massive stadium, weaving through the melody with effortless power. Every note was perfect. Every movement was precise. This was her domain. Then, a flicker. The stage lights shuddered, their glow dimming for a fraction of a second. Rea barely reacted, years of performing keeping her smooth. Her hips swayed, her hands lifted. Another flicker. She turned just in time to see it, one of the massive overhead stage lights jerking loose. A bolt clattered to the stage, bouncing near her heels. The metal frame above creaked, strained. Then one of the lights tilted dangerously forward. For a second, she thought it was going to fall, right on top of her. Rea's breath caught, but then, nothing. The fixture trembled, then held, as if whatever had shaken it had changed its mind. The audience noticed nothing. The music pounded on. The dancers continued their routine. Rea forced herself to stay calm, composed, untouchable. but something in her gut twisted. Her eyes scanned the crowd, and that's when she saw him. A shadowy figure standing perfectly still among thousands of moving bodies. A hood obscured his face. He wasn't screaming, wasn't singing along. He just stood there, eyes locked on her, unblinking, watching. Rea's pulse spiked. A chill crawled up her spine. Not again. She had seen this man before, at other concerts, near her hotel, even once outside her studio. The lovesick stalker. She couldn't hear herself sing anymore. The music faded into the background. The only thing that existed was his piercing gaze, cutting through the flashing lights, through the sea of bodies, through her. Her heart pounded. Rea kept dancing, moving with the beat, but she signaled discreetly to the bodyguards stationed at the side of the stage. Two of them nodded and disappeared into the crowd. She didn't stop singing, didn't let her voice waver. The show went on, but for the first time, Rea Rain felt like the prey. The final note rang out, echoing through the massive arena. The crowd erupted, a wave of cheers and flashing lights flooding the space like a supernova. Rea Rain stood in the center of the stage, arms stretched wide, sweat glistening on her glowing brown skin. She smiled, radiant, untouchable. She bowed, blowing kisses to her fans. The house lights dimmed, the curtains dropped, and the second she stepped off the stage, her mask cracked. Her hands trembled. Her chest heaved. The moment she was out of sight from the cameras, she grabbed Chidi's wrist. "Did they get him?" she whispered, her voice sharp, urgent. Chidi blinked, confused. "Who?" "The man in the crowd, the one who's been following me." Chidi paled. Before she could answer, Caleb stormed up, his jaw tight. What the hell happened out there? Rea yanked off her earpiece, her fingers still shaking. "The damn lights almost fell on me. That's what happened." "It was just a glitch," Caleb dismissed, checking his phone. "We're already doing damage control. No one noticed." "No one noticed?" Rea snapped. "The stage almost collapsed on me, Caleb." Amara appeared beside her, placing a hand on Rea's back. "Babe, you killed that performance. The fans are losing their minds. The headlines are all about your vocals, your moves. You are trending." "I don't care about the headlines," Rea cut in. Her breathing was uneven. "I saw him, Amara. He was there, watching me." Amara's smile vanished. She didn't need to ask who. "The guards didn't catch him," Chidi finally spoke. "By the time they reached the section you pointed at, he was gone." Rea's stomach dropped. Gone, just like every other time. Her heart pounded against her ribs, panic creeping up her throat. Miles arrived then, walking in cool and composed, as if nothing had gone wrong. "Baby, you were incredible." He leaned in to kiss her, but she barely reacted. "Rea?" His voice lowered. "What's wrong?" She forced herself to breathe. "I just need a second." Caleb sighed, rubbing his temples. "We have press waiting." "Not now," Amara snapped. Caleb rolled his eyes and walked off, muttering something under his breath. Rea pressed a hand to her temple. The roar of the crowd still echoed in her skull. The shadowy figure burned in her memory. A voice whispered in her mind, "You're not safe." She clenched her fists. No, she wouldn't let fear control her. Not now, not ever. Rea exhaled slowly, pressing her palms against the cool vanity table in her dressing room. She stared at her reflection, her skin still glowing from the stage lights, her hazel eyes stormy with unease. No, she wouldn't let this ruin her night. This was her moment. She turned sharply to Amara. "Where's the after party?" Amara's nude lips curled into a grin. "Now that's what I like to hear." Chidi looked uncertain. "Rea, are you sure? Maybe you should just—" "I'm fine," Rea interrupted, her voice steel. If she stopped now, the fear would win. "Let's go." Outside, Caleb was already waiting, his phone glued to his ear. Press is outside, but we can dodge them and head straight to the club. Rea grabbed a pair of oversized sunglasses and slid them on. Perfect. Miles smirked, wrapping an arm around her waist. That's my girl. The club was already packed when they arrived, the VIP section roped off exclusively for Rea and her entourage. Flashing neon lights bathed the room in pink and blue, the bass thrumming through the walls. As soon as Rea stepped inside, a roar erupted from the crowd. The DJ cut the music. Make some noise for Rea Rain. The room exploded. A waiter appeared instantly with bottles of champagne, ice clinking in the buckets. Amara grabbed a glass and passed one to Rea. To the biggest show of your career, she said, clinking their glasses together. Rea downed it in one sip. If she was going to forget the shadow in the crowd, she needed to drown it in music, lights, and champagne. The night was a blur of dancing, laughing, flashing cameras. For a while, Rea let herself sink into the moment. She pretended she didn't feel eyes on her. She pretended nothing had gone wrong at the concert. She pretended she wasn't watching the door. Then, a phone buzzed. Rea glanced at the table where her clutch sat. Her personal phone was there next to it, the screen lighting up. She ignored it. Amara pulled her back to the dance floor. We're celebrating, babe. No phones. And for a moment, Rea let it go. She would deal with reality tomorrow. Tonight, she was still on top of the world. The bass pulsed through the VIP section, drowning out thoughts, drowning out fear. Rea leaned against the velvet booth, her body light with champagne, her mind drifting between the music and the moment. Amara was dancing wildly beside her, red hair flying, while Miles whispered something into his phone, always half in, half out of the night. She let her eyes close for just a second, inhaling the sweet mix of perfume, liquor, and neon lights. Then, her phone buzzed again. The vibration against the table sent a ripple through her chest. Rea exhaled, reached over, and flipped the phone in her hand. One unread message, no number, no name. Her stomach clenched. She hesitated, then tapped the screen. You can pretend, but I see you. The air in her lungs vanished. Her fingers curled around the device, gripping it so tightly her knuckles ached. She swallowed, scanning the club, the sea of moving bodies. She couldn't see anything unusual, but she felt it. Somewhere in the crowd, he was watching. She pushed out of the booth, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she walked swiftly toward the VIP balcony. The music drowned out her thoughts, but her heartbeat was louder. She pressed her phone against her palm, her mind racing. Was this the stalker? Was this someone inside her circle? Rea? She turned sharply. Miles was behind her, his eyes scanning her face. What's wrong? She hesitated. The words were on her tongue, but something stopped her. She couldn't keep acting like a victim. She was Rea Rain, and Rea Rain didn't let fear win. Nothing, she said, sliding the phone into her clutch. She forced a small smirk. Just taking a breather. Miles studied her for a second, then nodded, slipping his arm around her waist. Come back inside. You're the queen of this party. She let him guide her back, but even as she smiled, even as she let herself get lost in the music again, the words burned in her mind. You can pretend, but I see you. The first thing Rea heard was Chidi's frantic voice. Rea, wake up! Her head pounded as she groggily sat up in bed. The morning sun cut through her penthouse window, too bright, too sharp. She rubbed her eyes, blinking up at her personal assistant, whose face was pale with panic. You're trending, Chidi said breathlessly, and not in a good way. Rea's stomach twisted. What now? Chidi didn't answer. She just shoved the phone into Rea's hands. Her own face stared back at her from the screen. Dozens of leaked photos. The biggest one, her, asleep in her bed, and right beside her, a line of white powder on the nightstand. Rea's heart stopped. What? The captions were brutal. Rea Rain exposed. Afrobeats queen or coke queen? Superstar caught in drug scandal. Is this the end of her career? Inside Rea Rain's private life. Who took these photos? Rea's blood ran cold. These weren't paparazzi shots. These weren't leaked by some hacker. Someone had been in her apartment. Who took these? Rea whispered. Chidi's lips pressed into a thin line. That's the problem. It had to be someone close to you. These were taken inside your room, while you were asleep. Rea scrolled frantically, looking at each picture. Then she froze. One of the images, a reflection in the mirror behind her bed. A hooded figure stood in the doorway, watching her. Rea's breath hitched. Her fingers trembled as she zoomed in, her chest tightening with every pixel. This wasn't just sabotage. This was personal. A sharp knock on the door made her jolt. Chidi hurried over and peeked through the peephole. It's the detective, the one from last time. Rea exhaled shakily. Let him in. Detective Obinna Okeke, the same officer she'd called about the stalker at her concert, stepped inside, his face unreadable. You need to leave the city, he said immediately. Rea's eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? You're being watched, Ms. Rain, the detective said grimly. Whoever's doing this is close, too close. Until we figure out how deep this goes, I suggest you disappear for a while. Rea clenched her jaw. And go where? The detective glanced at Chidi. Anywhere but here. Chidi hesitated, then said softly, Your aunt and Temi are in the village. Maybe. Rea looked between them, her heart still hammering. Her life was spiraling out of control. Maybe it was time to run. The drive out of Lagos stretched endlessly, the hum of the tires against the road blending into Rea's racing thoughts. She sat in the back seat, sunglasses shielding her tired, swollen eyes. Chidi had suggested the village as a temporary escape, but Rea wasn't sure she believed in safe spaces anymore. Her career wasn't over, but it had taken a brutal hit. Back in Lagos, her PR team was in overdrive, spinning the scandal, planting doubt in the public's mind. Caleb, her agent, was glued to his phone, calling in favors, setting up damage control interviews. Her fans were divided. Some refused to believe the photos, while others whispered that fame had finally consumed her. Her music was still dominating the charts, but Rea knew the truth. One wrong move, and it could all fall apart. She folded her arms and stared out of the window as they entered familiar roads. She had come here for solitude, for clarity, but mostly because she didn't trust anyone anymore, not even Chidi. Chidi lived with her, her room just down the hall. Chidi never drank. Yet she claimed she didn't hear a thing, while someone roamed around her apartment taking photos. Chidi supposedly slept. Someone close to her had betrayed her, and until she figured out who, distance was the only thing that made sense. The car rumbled onto the dirt road, kicking up dust as it neared the modest home she once knew so well. Temi stood outside as they pulled up, her arms folded. She had clearly been waiting, but her expression was unreadable. Rea stepped out, taking in the familiar smell of burning firewood, the sight of mango trees swaying in the wind. Temi didn't rush to hug her, didn't even smile. She only gave a small nod. You're here. Rea forced a tired smile. I am. Temi's eyes flickered over the luxury car, over the expensive bag slung over Rea's shoulder. Didn't think you'd ever come back. Always the dramatic big sister, Rea murmured. Well, it's been a while. I thought you had forgotten us. I work, Temi. You know my schedule. Temi let out a slow breath and turned toward the house. Come inside. Everything looked the same as she had left it. She had poured millions of naira in the once small, dilapidated house into the large but comfortable space it was now. Brand new kitchen and its appliances and expensive furniture, but it had been a long time since her last return. However, something felt different. The one person missing was her aunt Ngozi. She knows I'm here, Rea asked, setting down her bag. Temi poured herself tea. She knows. Rea waited. And? Temi shrugged. She's in her room. A heavy pause. Rea exhaled sharply. Of course she is. The hallway to Ngozi's room felt longer than it should have. Rea hesitated, then knocked lightly. Mama? Silence. She turned the knob and pushed the door open. Ngozi sat by the window, her arms folded, her back stiff. Her blonde bob wig sat slightly crooked, like she had been too distracted to fix it properly. You finally remember where home is, Uju? Ngozi's voice was cool, unreadable. Rea flinched. No matter how many times she had asked them to call her Rea, that she no longer went by the name Uju, they often slipped up. Rea stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. Auntie, please. Ngozi didn't turn. You should be in Lagos with your people, the ones you chose over me. Rea clenched her jaw. Mama, it wasn't like that. Ngozi scoffed. Wasn't it? Rea stepped forward. I didn't come here to fight, Mama. I came here because... She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Because I don't feel safe anymore. Ngozi exhaled, finally turning. Her sharp eyes softened just a little. So, you finally understand that when the shit hits the fan, family is all you have, Uju? Rea's throat tightened. This wasn't just about her scandal. This was about Ngozi's heartbreak, being cut off, being left behind. Auntie, she swallowed. I'm sorry. Ngozi's expression didn't change. Sorry for what? For firing you as my manager? Ngozi stared at her, unmoving. Rea took a deep breath. Mama, you believed in me when no one else did. You managed me when I had nothing. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have made it this far. Ngozi remained silent. Rea stepped closer. But I needed someone like Caleb. Caleb Harper manages some of the biggest names in entertainment today. When he approached me, I couldn't turn down the opportunity. Then Caleb felt that you two were always at odds and asked that I move you to another role. He is someone who has open doors in the industry. You gave me my biggest breaks, but he has taken me to the next level. Please try to understand, Mama. I never meant to hurt you. I still need you by my side, but Caleb is what my career needs right now. Ngozi's lips pursed slightly, her gaze searching Rea's face. The tension in the room stretched for what felt like forever. Then, after a long pause, Ngozi finally gave in. She opened her arms. Rea fell into them. Ngozi held her tight, stroking her back like she had when Rea was a child. It felt warm, familiar, safe. But when Rea couldn't see, Ngozi's smile didn't reach her eyes. A slow, unreadable expression settled on her face. Something between acceptance and something else. Something darker. Then, in a calm, steady voice, Ngozi murmured, Now tell me what's all this I'm hearing about a coke queen. Because I did not raise a drug addict. Your mother must be turning in her grave. Rea stiffened. For the first time in a long time, Rea slept soundly. The village air was different. Cool, crisp, free from the suffocating tension of Lagos. She had almost forgotten what true quiet felt like. No paparazzi, no flashing lights, no endless phone calls, just the distant hum of crickets and the faint rustling of the mango trees outside. When she woke up, the morning sunlight spilled through the small window of her old bedroom. She felt lighter. Maybe she really was safe here. Rea stretched, rolling onto her side. Her phone lay untouched on the bedside table. No frantic calls. No notifications from Caleb. No new scandals. A small sigh of relief escaped her lips. Maybe running away had been the right move. But then, a knock at the door. Rea, breakfast is ready. Temi's voice was muffled through the wood. Coming, Rea called back. She slipped out of bed and wrapped a shawl around herself before stepping out into the hallway. The house smelled of freshly brewed tea and fried plantains and eggs, a scent that tugged at old childhood memories. For the first time since arriving, she almost felt like she belonged again. Temi was already at the table, sipping her tea when Rea sat down. The food looked untouched. You're not eating? Rea asked. Temmie gave a small shrug. Not hungry. Rea picked up a piece of fried plantain and took a bite, glancing around. I can't believe this is the same house we grew up in. It's not. Thanks to you, it's 3 times the size, Temmie said. But something felt different. It wasn't just the tension lingering between her and Temmie, or the way her aunt still hadn't come out of her room. It was something else. Something small. Something she couldn't put her finger on. Her gaze flickered back to the wall of family photos. Her parents, herself, and Temmie as kids. A younger Aunt Ngozi standing proudly beside them. Then her breath caught. She frowned, setting down her fork. Temmie, she said slowly. Where's the picture of me? Temmie blinked. What? The big framed photo of me, the one Auntie used to keep in the center of the wall. It's not there anymore. Temmie's expression was unreadable. She took it down. Why? Temmie hesitated, then sighed. She didn't say, but after you fired her, she stopped talking about you. It's like she wanted to erase you from this house. Technically, I didn't fire her, but whatever, she thought to herself. Rea swallowed hard, erased. Something cold slithered down her spine. She suddenly lost her appetite. After breakfast, Rea found herself standing in front of Aunt Ngozi's closed bedroom door again. She thought about knocking, about asking her outright why she took the photo down. But then, her phone buzzed. She inhaled sharply and grabbed it from her pocket. One unread message, no name, no number. She hesitated before opening it. Home doesn't mean safe. Watch your back. Rea's fingers tightened around the phone. Her heart began to pound. She wasn't safe here. She was never safe. The missing picture still bothered Rea. As the sun dipped behind the mango trees, she found herself staring at the empty space on the wall where her framed photo used to be. It was small, almost insignificant, but something about it felt wrong. Why remove only her photo? Why not rearrange the wall? Why not replace it with something else? She glanced at Temmie, who sat quietly, scrolling through her phone. You said Auntie took my picture down, right? Rea asked casually. Temmie didn't look up. Yeah, when? Temmie hesitated for half a second. A while ago. Before or after I demoted her? Temmie sighed, setting her phone down. Uju, what does it matter? It matters, Rea said sharply. Just answer the question. Temmie's lips pressed together. After. Rea's jaw tightened. It was a small thing, but it spoke volumes. Rea huffed and walked toward Ngozi's room. Ngozi was asleep. Rea stood outside the room for a moment, listening to her aunt's slow, steady breathing. She wasn't going to ask permission. Quietly, she slipped back into the living room, toward the small storage cabinet beside the bookshelf. Her old photos were probably tucked away inside. She reached for the door, but it was locked. Frowning, she crouched down and yanked again. The handle rattled, but it wouldn't budge. Temmie's voice came from behind her. What are you doing? Rea didn't turn. Looking for my picture. Temmie's hesitation lasted just a moment too long. Auntie put everything away. Just let it go, Rea. Rea didn't let things go. She grabbed a butter knife from the nearby kitchen counter and forced the lock open. Rea, Temmie hissed. You can't. The cabinet door swung open with a soft creak. Inside, a stack of neatly wrapped books, old documents, and framed photos sat piled together. Rea flipped through them quickly until she saw it, her old picture. She lifted it, turning it over, and froze. Taped to the back of the frame was an old envelope. It was fragile, yellowed with time, sealed with their mother's handwriting. To my girls. Rea's throat went dry. Temmie's eyes widened as she leaned in. What the hell? Rea carefully peeled the tape off and slipped a finger beneath the seal. She unfolded the delicate paper inside. My beautiful girls. If you're reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to tell you the truth myself. Rea's breath hitched. Please don't trust blindly. Not everyone who raises you has your best interests at heart. Not everyone who loves you will protect you. I fear there are things I won't be able to shield you from. If I don't make it, know that I tried to do what was best. Follow your instincts. You will know who to trust. Love always, your mother. A deep chill settled into Rea's bones. What the hell was this? She had never seen this letter before, and from the way Temmie stared at it, shocked, neither had she. Temmie's voice was barely a whisper. Why would Auntie hide this? Rea had no answer, but she knew one thing for sure. This letter had never been meant for their aunt's hands. She folded the paper, slipping it into her pocket, her mind spiraling with questions. Then her fingers brushed something else. Another paper. No, not a paper. A photo. She pulled it out. Her stomach dropped. It was old, slightly faded, but it shouldn't exist. Because it showed Ngozi, sitting at their dining room table, with Caleb, her agent, laughing, talking, looking like old friends. Rea's pulse pounded in her ears. Her body went cold. Temmie looked over her shoulder and let out a sharp breath. He was here. Rea clenched her jaw. That's what I'm about to find out. The night air was thick with the scent of damp earth and burning wood. The village was quiet, except for the distant sound of a radio playing her latest Afrobeats hit from a neighbor's compound. Rea sat on the small veranda, her arms wrapped around her knees. The letter from her mother rested on her lap, the ink slightly smudged from the way she'd been folding and unfolding it all evening. Temmie sat beside her, silent, staring out into the darkness. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Rea broke the silence. You never saw this letter before, did you? She asked. Temmie shook her head. Never. Rea exhaled. Auntie had it all this time. She read it. She knew. Temmie frowned. Knew what? Rea's fingers tightened around the paper. That something happened to our mother. That whatever she was trying to warn us about, Mama knew and kept it from us. Temmie looked uncertain. I don't know, Uju. Maybe she just didn't want us to worry, or maybe she was part of it. Temmie's head snapped toward her. Rea, that's our aunt. Rea turned the letter over in her hands, and this is our mother's words. She didn't trust someone. She feared something, and now I have a reason to believe I shouldn't trust anyone either. Temmie sighed, rubbing her temples. So, what do we do? Rea thought for a moment. Then she looked at her sister. We find out how Mama died, she said. Not what we were told. The real truth. Temmie nodded slowly. Then we start with the records at the local hospital, and if that doesn't tell us anything, then we ask the people who were there, Rea finished. Temmie let out a slow breath. Okay, let's do it. The next morning, Rea and Temmie had barely finished breakfast when they heard a familiar voice outside. Temmie, where is she? Rea's stomach clenched. She knew that voice. Temmie exchanged a look with her before standing and walking to the front door. Michael, what are you doing here? Michael stepped onto the veranda, his tall frame still carrying the same confidence he had back when they were teenagers. His dark skin gleamed under the sun, and his familiar smirk was still there, except now there was something else behind it. Bitterness. Where is Uju? He asked, ignoring Temmie's question. Rea slowly stood from the dining table and stepped into the doorway. I'm here. Michael's gaze locked onto hers, and for a moment, it was like they were 6 years younger, standing by the riverbank, dreaming about a future together. But that was before Rea Rain existed, when she was Uju, before Uju became a stranger to him and became Rea. He folded his arms. So, you finally remember where you came from? Rea didn't answer. Temmie sighed. Michael, this isn't the time. Michael's jaw tightened. No, I think it is. Because I need to understand something, Uju. I need to understand how the girl who promised she would never forget me forgot me the second she saw flashing lights and city skyscrapers. Rea swallowed hard. Michael, it wasn't like that. Wasn't it? His voice was sharp. I waited for you. And when I finally went to Lagos hoping to see you, you acted like you didn't know me. Rea flinched. She remembered that day. The way she had avoided his eyes, pretending to be too busy to talk. She had been afraid that seeing him would remind her of who she used to be. And she didn't want to be Uju anymore. She was Rea now, Rea Rain. She inhaled deeply. Michael, I was wrong. I handled everything wrong. And I hurt you. I know that now. Michael stared at her, the anger in his eyes flickering slightly. Rea took a step closer. I don't expect you to forget it, but I'm asking for your forgiveness. Michael didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he sighed, rubbing his jaw. It took me a long time to get over it, but I did. Rea's chest ached at those words. She nodded slowly. I'm glad. Michael exhaled and looked away. Are you staying long? Rea hesitated. Not much longer. Michael nodded. Then, I guess this is goodbye for good, huh? Rea gave a sad smile. Guess so. Michael let out a small laugh. I hope you know, even after everything, I never wish bad on you, Rea Rain. Rea's smile faltered slightly. For some reason, hearing that made her more uneasy than comforted. That night, Rea was sitting on the veranda again when her phone rang. She checked the caller ID. Detective Obinna. Her stomach flipped. She quickly answered. Detective? We got him. Rea sat up straight. What? The stalker. His name is Tolu Adebayo. We arrested him this morning, Detective Obinna said. And he's talking. He confessed to everything. Rea's heart was racing. Everything? He broke into your apartment. He planted the drugs. He tampered with the concert equipment. He sent the threats. Rea let out a shaky breath. It was really him? Yes, the detective confirmed. We found the messages on his phone, and some of the security footage we were able to retrieve from your apartment complex confirms he was inside. For the first time in weeks, Rea felt a weight lift off her chest. So, it's over, she whispered. Obinna's voice was steady. It's over, Miss Rain. You can come home. Rea's eyes burned. She could finally go back. She could finally breathe again. Thank you, Detective, she murmured. As she ended the call, she exhaled, looking up at the night sky, praying hands. It's over. She repeated the words in her mind, forcing herself to believe them. But deep down, something didn't sit right. The night air in the village carried a stillness that felt heavier than usual. Crickets hummed in the background, the scent of burning firewood lingering in the air. Rea and Temi sat across from Aunt Ngozi on the dimly lit porch. The letter lay between them, an unspoken weight pressing against their chests. Ngozi hadn't said a word since Rea had placed it on the table. She just stared at it, her fingers twitching slightly, as if resisting the urge to grab it and tear it to pieces. Rea's voice broke the silence first. Auntie, Mama wrote this before she died. Ngozi exhaled sharply, but still didn't look up. Temi leaned forward. Why did you hide it from us? Ngozi's jaw tightened. Because it wasn't meant for you, Rea scoffed. It literally says to my girls on the envelope. Who else was it meant for? Ngozi finally looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. Your mother. She was not in her right mind when she wrote this. Rea and Temi exchanged a glance. Temi's voice was softer now. Auntie, what aren't you telling us? Ngozi let out a long, shaky breath, pressing her fingertips to her temples. You two think I don't know about your little trip to the local hospital today? Asking a bunch of questions about my sister's death? Rea and Temi exchanged uncomfortable glances. I said nothing, because I knew you'd find nothing. Ngozi said, you two were too young. too young to remember how things really were. But your mother, she was a woman who carried pain like a second skin. And after your father died, that pain turned into hatred. Rea's fingers curled into fists. Hatred for you? Ngozi swallowed, her throat bobbing. Yes. Rea's heart pounded. Why? Ngozi hesitated, as if debating whether to say the words. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled. Because she thought I killed him. Silence crashed down like a hammer. Temi gasped. What? Rea leaned forward. Explain. Ngozi clenched her hands together. The night your father died, he was coming from my house. Rea's breath caught in her throat. He came to borrow money, Ngozi continued, her voice thick with emotion. Your parents were struggling, but he didn't want your mother to know how bad things really were. The landlord was threatening to throw you all out. He was desperate. Rea's body tensed. Why had no one ever told them this? Ngozi's eyes glistened. I gave him what I had, and then I begged him to tell Ijoma, my sister, the truth, to stop pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. But he said no. He said she had enough to worry about. Her voice cracked. He left my house that night, and I never saw him again. Rea's chest felt tight. Ngozi looked down at the letter, shaking her head. When the accident happened, your mother wouldn't listen to reason. She was convinced I was the reason he was on the road that night. That I had... Her breath shuddered. That I had stolen him from her. She thought we were having an affair. Temi's eyes filled with tears. Were you? Ngozi's head snapped up, her face twisted with hurt. Of course not. The pain in her voice was raw, deep. Your father was my brother-in-law, my family. I loved him, yes, but not in that way. But your mother, she never forgave me. Rea's throat was dry. That's why she wrote this. Ngozi nodded. She wanted to make sure you girls never trusted me the way she did. A heavy silence settled between them. Rea wanted to believe her. She wanted to believe that her aunt, who had raised her since she was 6 years old, had been telling the truth. But the letter, the way their mother had written those words, the weight of them. Not everyone who raises you has your best interests at heart. Not everyone who loves you will protect you. Rea's stomach twisted. She suddenly felt like a little girl again, staring up at a world too complicated for her to understand. Temi wiped her eyes. Auntie, why didn't you tell us any of this? Ngozi looked away. Because it wouldn't have changed anything. Your mother is gone. Your father is gone. And I... Her voice broke. I lost both of them that night. Rea's fingers trembled as she reached for the letter. Mama hated you until the day she died, didn't she? Ngozi gave a weak, bitter laugh. Yes. Rea sat back, exhaling. And also, because I know you saw the picture of me and Caleb, I'll explain that as well. I tracked him down about 8 years ago, when you were still very young, but bursting with energy. He was scouting for new local singers and dancers. I invited him to come and watch you perform at the local talent competition. Even though you won, he still wasn't interested. He was here in this very house. He left and I never saw him again. That is not until you topped the billboards. Then, he decides to waltz back in after I had done all the hard work. And you just handed him your career. But I've made peace with that. It's in the past now. Ngozi wiped her damp eyes with the back of her hand. They all spent the next 30 minutes in silence, no one knowing what to say next. But Rea still had a gnawing feeling in the pit of her stomach. She didn't know what to believe anymore. Then, Rea pushed the letter into her bag and stood up suddenly. I'm going back to Lagos tomorrow. Temi looked at her in surprise. Already? Rea nodded. The stalker's been arrested. My name's been cleared. My career's back on track. She forced a small smile and looked at her aunt. It's time to move forward. Ngozi's voice was quiet. Be careful, Uju. Rea didn't flinch this time at the name. She just turned and walked into the house. Lagos welcomed Rea back with its usual chaos. Blaring horns, neon billboards, and the constant hum of a city that never slept. But for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could finally breathe again. As the car pulled up to her penthouse building, she saw Caleb pacing outside, phone pressed to his ear. The moment he spotted her, he ended the call and rushed toward her. Rea? His face lit up with relief. Thank God. We have a lot to talk about. She stepped out of the car, adjusting her sunglasses. I figured. Let's go inside. The moment she walked into her home, she was greeted by Chidi, the detective, and Miles, her boyfriend. Chidi was bubbling with excitement. Caleb was focused as always, and Miles looked at her like he had been holding his breath since she left. You're finally back, Miles murmured, stepping forward and kissing her forehead. I was starting to think you ran away forever. Rea let out a small laugh. I considered it. She turned to the detective. You said the stalker confessed. Is it really over, Detective Okeke? Please call me Obinna, and yes, we have our guy. Detective? Obinna. Rea shook her head. Detective Obinna. The detective smirked. That will do, I guess. Detective Obinna folded his arms. As far as we can tell, yes. We recovered the messages from his phone. He admitted to breaking into your apartment, tampering with the concert equipment, and planting the drugs. He was acting alone. Rea exhaled slowly. Good. Chidi clapped her hands together. Okay, now that we're done with the nightmare part, can we talk about the amazing news? Rea arched a brow. What news? Caleb smirked. Your career is back, Rea. In full force. Chidi grabbed her phone and waved it excitedly. Concert sales are through the roof. Ever since the stalker was caught and your name got cleared, fans have been buying up every single ticket. Caleb added, and the AMA reinstated your nomination. You're back in the running for Best Album of the Year. Rea's lips parted slightly. The music industry's biggest night, the same award she thought was gone forever. She was back. Her career was back. She had survived. She let out a small, disbelieving laugh. Wow. Chidi grinned. You should celebrate. Miles draped an arm around her shoulders. I was thinking the same thing. Rea shook her head with a smile. No clubs tonight. I just want a quiet evening. Caleb snorted. A quiet evening? You just made the biggest comeback of the year. You deserve a toast. Rea glanced around the room. The people who had stood by her. The people who had fought for her. She smiled. Fine. One toast. They sat in her penthouse lounge, glasses in hand, as the city lights stretched out beneath them. Rea watched the champagne bubbles rise in her glass, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. She had made it through. She was going to win back everything she lost. Miles leaned over and kissed her cheek. I'm proud of you, babe. Caleb raised his glass. To Rea Rain, the queen of Afrobeats, back where she belongs. Everyone echoed the toast, their glasses clinking together. Rea closed her eyes and let the warmth of the moment sink in. She was safe. She was home. And tomorrow, the world would wake up to Rea Rain, stronger than ever. The morning sun spilled over Lagos, casting golden light over the bustling streets. Up in the penthouse, everything was silent. The clock on the wall ticked rhythmically. Outside the building, the city was alive. Fans blasting Rea Rain's music, bloggers speculating about her AMA nomination, and the world preparing for her ultimate comeback. Abiola, Rea's housemaid, hummed softly as she stepped out of the elevator, juggling her keys and a shopping bag. She had been working for Miss Rain for over 3 years, and this morning was like any other. Or at least it should have been. She reached the door, knocking lightly. Madame, good morning, ma. No response. Abiola frowned. It was unusual. Miss Rain or Chidi always responded, even if she was too tired to come to the door. She knocked again, louder this time. Madame? Good morning, Ma. Silence. A chill crept up Abiola's spine. She hesitated, then pulled out the spare key from her bag and unlocked the door. Inside the penthouse. The air inside was still. Too still. The curtains were drawn, the living room neat, the empty champagne glasses from last night's celebration sitting on the table. Abiola's brows furrowed. She made her way toward the bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. Something felt wrong. Her breath caught in her throat as she slowly pushed it open. And then she let out a blood-curdling scream. Hey, story lovers. So we have come to the end of part 1. Tell me in the comments below, who do you think is dead? Who do you think the killer might be? Part 2 is out now. Click to continue watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe.